What is going on, my beautiful people? In today's video, we have another fan suggestion video. Mr. Alan Stone commented on the apple versus apple corn video saying, why not just try out corn versus apple corn? So I thought that was a great idea, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in that video. Alright, so this is during deer season when I put this out, so I didn't do a whole lot of talking, kind of drove up, dumped the products, and then drove off. That way we didn't spook the deer, or tried to at least keep it to a minimum. So I didn't do much talking, tried not to get my scent out, and we put out this corn. So here's a clip. As you can see, I put the corn out, I put the apple corn out, and I did them on respective sides. Of course, there's gonna be a little bit of overlap in the middle. And we actually had something that I thought was going to be surprising. You know, I really thought that apple corn was going to sweep this away because it was the best of both worlds. And as you can see by this footage, we put it out on the 18th of September at about 1 o'clock. The apple corn is right there on the right side. And then, of course, the corn is right there on the left side. So, of course, we had some turkeys come through, but they, funny enough, didn't really mess with any of the corn. They seemed more surprised, if anything, that there was a bunch of corn out. And after this video right here, we really didn't have too much activity from these turkeys as far as eating the corn. Now, later that night, at around 11 p.m., we did have our first deer come through, which was pretty nice to see. Looks like it's a spike, or not a spike, excuse me. It looks like it's a doe. And again, pretty confused as far as, hey, there's a bunch of new corn here. This wasn't here a couple days ago, but let's check it out nonetheless. And as you can see, she came up to the regular corn. So I was pretty surprised to see that. You know, I thought with the apple corn, the scent of the apples as well as the corn would have, you know, collected more of the deer's attention and they would have wanted that. But so far it's looking like they just want the regular corn. Now, this was actually a pretty interesting video where we have a spike come in, and that left side on that spike is pretty gnarly. It looks like he has almost a point that comes off and hooks off of the outside as well as those two spikes. So that's pretty neat to see. You know, maybe he'll grow into a pretty nice non-typical deer. So I'm pretty excited for that. And looks like him, you know, he did the same kind of thing. You can see a little bit of the velvet hanging there on his right side, but he came up to the corn. He was a little skittish, of course. This is actually about 24 hours after we put that corn out. He's a little bit skittish, but yet he comes up straight to that left side, and he brought his friends with him. So I'm assuming that's why he was a little bit skittish, was those does were coming up as well. But as you can see, we have 5 deer, and based off their body language, you know, and their body orientation, they're all on the side of just the corn, not the apple corn. So I thought that was interesting. Now, we did have some that favored the apple corn. As you can see, this fawn here, they all came in, it appears, on that side. So she walked right up to that apple corn and started munching on it. And the other two are doing, you know, the same. They're kind of interested in what's going on, not quite sure which one they want the best. And then right here, we have 3 does and a spike. And 3 of them are eating from the apple corn, while as the one is eating from the regular corn. But if you take a notice at the 2 piles, I know it's a little washed out in this video, the regular corn is almost completely gone. I have that trophy rock kind of marking the middle line, and you can see they've eaten a lot of the regular corn, and there's still a decent chunk of the apple corn left. So I think that might be why there was more deer on the apple corn. It's just because there was less regular corn for them to eat. We have another spike coming in, and I don't think it's the same spike. It may be, and maybe he just has less velvet. He's got a little bit of a brow tine, little bitty deer, and as you can see in that video with him, it looks like he was leaning towards the apple corn, but the regular corn is gone by this point. Now, you guys, you know I'm holding out to the end. I did save the best for last. So, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take a look at this video right here. And as you can see, we had a decent little 2-year-old buck come in. He's real pretty. He looks a lot like the deer I have behind me, just a little bit smaller. And then his buddy picked his head up. They both preferred the regular corn. They were there on the 20th at 2 p.m., so during shooting hours. That one on the left's a pretty decent deer. He reminds me a lot of buns, you know, if they weren't 200 miles apart. But that's a decent deer, and if I saw him with my bow, I'd have to think twice about shooting him. He looks to be inside the ears, but he's rather tall. I think he's a young deer. If he can make it another year, he is going to be a stud. But if he walks in front of me and I got my bow, you know, it's going to be hard to let that deer walk, but I need to try to let him walk. They ate around for a little bit on the apple, or on the corn side of the pile, and then, you know, they got a little bit of the apple corn before they made their getaway. And then also a couple days later, we had this deer. And what I like about this deer is his rack kind of grows straight up. So as you can see, his main beams are a little bit more pointed up, and the points kind of stick off the back of it. And I just thought he was a really unique deer. Here's another picture of him from, or another video of him from the front. I think that he's a really unique deer in that regard. As you can see, you know, even on that left side, his main beam goes up and he has a point kind of sticking off but up, and then on the other side it's all sticking kind of straight back. And I'm excited to see, you know, what that deer does in the future, because that's a really unique deer to me, the fact that he's growing up with more points off the back instead of forward with the points coming up off the top. So I was really excited about that video. Thank you, Mr. Alan Stone, for the recommendation. And of course, if you guys have anything else you want to see, I'll be looking back at that video. I'll look at this video as well as far as what we can do in the future. Thought this would work really well. You know, it does kind of show me that corn works just as good as apple corn, or that it might even be a little better, since most of the deer tend to be on that side of the pile. But let me know what you've had success with in the comments below. Let me know if you prefer apple corn or if you prefer corn itself. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead. We'll jump into the verse of the week. So this verse of the day comes from Psalms. And I know we've been doing a lot of Psalms, but Psalms just has a lot of really good stuff in it, y'all. So this verse is Psalms 34:22. The Lord redeems his servants. No one will be condemned who takes refuge in him. You know, God does not only buy our bondage and our debt to sin through Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for that, but he also assures us that he will provide refuge to those who trust in him. Our future is tied to him, and not our ability to do it ourselves, but our ability to trust in him to do it for us. And I know that's really hard, you know, especially as a man, for myself. We're constantly wanting to fix things. We're constantly wanting to provide for ourselves. You know, we feel like we need to provide for ourselves and our family. And maybe that makes us do too much at times, whereas we could sit back, not do anything, but trust in Lord a little bit more. You know, I have a favorite saying, I'm sure you've heard it many times before, but when it's meant to be, it will be. And that means, you know, if you're constantly struggling to make something happen, or if you're constantly trying to push for one thing to happen and it just keeps falling through, maybe it's not time yet. You know, you got to trust the Lord's timing and not our own. We may want things before they're meant to happen. And I know in the digital age and the age we live in now, it's really hard because everything's a click away. I mean, you can order stuff on Amazon and it be here within a couple days. It's really hard to wait for things that we want just because of the society that we're in. But, you know, sometimes it's better to wait, and it makes things more worth it. But anyways, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for spending your time with me. And always remember, when nature calls or God calls, you better answer. Peace and love.